Hello and welcome to Marshall Close-Up, where we interview important members in our community and learn something new about them. Brought to you by the Marshall County Media Arts class. I'm Ross, and today I'm here with Jennifer Wilson, a case manager working with Emerald Therapy Center located in Murray.
Hello, Ross.
Hello, it's great to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this interview.
Me too.
I've been looking forward to it since we set it up.
Yes, I know. Yes, me too. Awesome.
So-
Well, thanks for that introduction. I am actually a targeted case manager at Emerald, and the targeted just means that it's specific in Kentucky. You have to have Medicaid, Kentucky Medicaid insurance, and a DSM-5 mental health diagnosis. And so there's a specific training that we go through. We're only required to have a bachelor's degree in human services, education, something like that. And then we have a targeted case management training. And we have other trainings that we do, but we do have offices in Callaway County, several in McCracken, and then also in Graves County we have an office.
Okay, so you work specifically at the Murray one though. Do you ever go to any of the other ones?
Not really. I had an interview and I've been to a meeting or two places, but mostly I work with Callaway clients, but I can work with other clients either by telehealth or going into homes and schools.
Okay, how many clients do you usually have at a time? I'm sure you have more than just the one.
Well, there's guidelines for there's state regulations actually for targeted case managers in Kentucky, and we're only allowed to have up to 25. So depending on my life and how it's going, we have some flexibility there because they want us at our best because we see a lot of clients, but anywhere from 18 to 25 is what I see. And I see, if you're interested in the population would be 3 years old up until any age of adults. Usually my favorites is 3 to 22 usually because I was in education before, and so I really like going into the schools. I work with the teachers. I collaborate with teachers and therapists to make sure that their learning plans meet their mental health needs.
I think it's really great that you prioritize your quality of work over your quantity of work by making sure that you're able to like evenly and equally pay attention to them. I think that's really great. So what kind of people do you work with though? What kind of situation do people find themselves in to land in your office?
Well, they have to have a direct referral from a therapist or a counselor or our med management psychiatry team. And so it can't come from outside sources, it has to be internal because I'm managing the case that they have there with Emerald. And so they would have any kind of DSM-5, there's a whole big manual and there's the bite-sized one that tells about those diagnoses, but there's a list that the therapist knows or whoever's referring them, and they would make sure they have the correct diagnosis. That goes through my supervisor then. There's just a link they actually click as a therapist, and they put the information for the client there, and then we get an email, and so does the therapist saying, oh, they've been assigned a case manager, and then we contact them and set up first appointments.
I know that the Emerald Centers, they also help with people with substance abuse and also immigrants, like people who are coming into the country. So do you ever find clients with those kind of situations in your office? Oh yes, we have a substance use disorder program and we have a director for that, and they have counselors. We have groups for that. And we also support as targeted case managers. We'd probably be pulled into a case with the immigrant situation pretty quickly so that we can do the collaboration so they can focus on the mental health aspect, and we're focusing on everything that surrounds that. As we know, the needs of an individual, the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs need to be met before their mental health needs. So we find out what those things are and their strengths. So you are taking on a lot of work at a time. Even though you limit yourself to what you can do, that's still a lot of work. So how do you manage this? What kind of tools do you use? Like, how do you make sure that you are able to achieve what you're doing?
Well, you have to have like some kind of system. We have to think about, which ones are more severe. We would put more time sometimes into those if they have, if we think they might need outside resources quickly to survive or keep themselves safe or others safe, then we're going to prioritize those cases and see them more often or talk with their parents sometimes or them more often. We'll use text, emails, whatever is safest. Sometimes with domestic violence situations, we have to be very careful with those to make sure that everyone is safe. I do specialize in children, as I mentioned, and also with domestic violence. I was an advocate. And I was also an advocate for children with CASA. And so I have some different trainings that kind of brought me to where I am in my specialties here.
Is CASA the one, oh, I thought you were talking about
No.
the children of
Foster,
of people who have hearing issues.
No.
How do you work with people with disabilities like that?
Okay.
Do you have translators there? Do you have people?
We have actually a piece of a device that we can use that helps us to translate.
It's really awesome that y'all are able to like help everyone that you can. That's amazing that you have tools for that.
Yeah.
So you are doing a lot of things, and you're involved with a lot of. You're not doing them, but you're involved with a lot of things that can bear a really heavy load on people's mental health. Obviously, you're working with people who are depressed. You're working with people who have had bad experiences in life that are going through hardships, and it can just be hard to be surrounded with things like that all the time.
Yes.
So what kind of support do you have?
Yes, what you speak of is vicarious trauma, which is like a secondary trauma. So we find ourselves, just as therapists do, at the end of a session, where we take and we use those coping, and you're doing it now, I see it. We're using those coping mechanisms because, and I keep fidget toys in my office to soothe myself, not only others, but we need to just kind of step back and kind of shut down for a moment, in a good way, shut down for a moment, and then make sure that we are getting our needs met. If that's eating a meal, having some water, we keep bottles of water around at all times. Taking care of all the aspects of self-care is very important for case managers, as it is for all of our staff.
And I'm sure this could be, maybe not touchy, you could be considered rude maybe answering this kind of question, but even myself, when I first started going to the meetings there, and especially when I was told I had to get a case manager for accommodations, I was resistant. I was kind of fighting it a little. So how do you work with people who are resistant or are difficult and aren't always 100% for this, or maybe a little shy from it?
Oh yeah, so there, first of all, the word case is kind of intimidating, and I've tried to get the state of Kentucky to take that off, but we think of case workers, and I'm not a case worker. It's very different than a case worker. So I'm just kind of there to manage. We assess, we find out what your needs are, we build rapport with you. Sometimes people get really comfortable, but when they're not comfortable and there's some things that cause them to want to stand off and not be open, we just use those, we call them motivational interviewing skills, where I'm using open-ended questions that encourages them to talk, not yes or no answer questions, but those kinds of things. I'm using, I'm focusing on their strengths as much as possible, not just their needs. And you'll notice you never hear H-E-L-P, help, from me. I've kind of outlawed that from I don't like the word. So when somebody feels helpless, I don't like that. I want them to feel they're supported. So we look at supports and resources. So we kind of find what the root cause is a lot of times, and I will have therapists say, how did you find that out about my client? I've been working with them for 6 months. And I'll be like, it's the cans and anza. You want me to tell you what that is? Cans and anza. These are assessment tools that we use. So we build rapport we really study these assessments. And there's tons of questions around it, but they're really focused on, there's parts of it for their needs and part for their strengths. So we're finding out what these things are that make them tick, or they're not ticking, and we find out what they are, and we really reach into their soul when we do that. So you're building rapport, or hopefully you're building rapport.
I'm sure that especially people who are resistant, when they have to answer a yes or no question, they feel like they're being tested.
Right.
And that feeling like you're being tested makes you feel like you're in a doctor's office, or like you're like it can make people feel really constrained, like they're in a
checklist.
box, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's yes or no's, and if you don't answer right, then there's nothing wrong with you.
That's right.
I'm sure having an actual conversation and answering those questions through that is much better, and it makes people answer honestly as well. And I think that's
Having a
also great.
conversation.
And then with finding out things about clients before their therapist does, and like half the time,
Yeah.
you asked me if I was getting evaluated for ADHD in 30 minutes after I had been going to the sessions for 6 months. So your work is really amazing.
Yeah.
You're great.
We have great training. I think the targeted case management training, when we have a new targeted case manager come in, actually, I gave my notes to a new one. She's starting this month, and I said, do you want to see my notes for my interview today? And so she was excited. And that's what you had kind of asked me before, how we rate success. And I think rating success is collaboration, it's communication. So with resources, we collaborate. With just our learning, what we're learning, we collaborate. And I am the oldest targeted case manager, and I'm also been doing it longer than
Young
the other
solo,
ones.
right?
So, yeah, that's it. That's me. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars buff. But yeah, so we are constantly sharing what we learn with each other. And I think success is always having the attitude of learning.
Yes.
Ross, I've learned from you. You might have learned from me, but I've learned from you too.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. I tried to teach a thing or two. Not to toot my own horn, but okay, I'll take it.
Sure.
So we've talked about success in your role, and we've talked about what makes the success, and we've talked about having resistant clients. And do we think that people might not always be able to measure success in your role, and people might be resistant because there are so many misconceptions around what you do? Like outwardly, really, there isn't. I've never heard anything bad, but I've never heard anything good. So I'm up to make my own assumptions. And I'm sure most people are too, especially if they're in that case, they might already be in a bad place. So what kind of misconceptions are there about your job, and which ones do you want to set straight?
We've actually had therapists, I'll be honest, come into Emerald, and they're like, why do we need a case manager? But then when they work with us, they really realize that we're there to support them and actually make their job easier. And so that misconception is just, we're a partner. We don't want people to feel like they're going over here getting therapy, going in that room getting psychiatry, coming over here. But we are, I call myself, Ross, the glue. So I'm the glue that holds everything together. And that's a lot of pressure sometimes. And that's why I have to really practice my self-care. You know, I had a pretty rough day a while back, and I had to just step back and say, I'm going to be gone for an hour. I'm going to come back and I'll be refreshed. Yes. And now I feel more refreshed and I feel ready for this interview. And so we really have to take those times. We all have different things that we deal with mental health, not just our clients.
Yes. And to be able to talk with me today, you had to go through a few, I don't call them hurdles, I'd say you got through pretty easily, but you had to go through some steps with your supervisions. What kind of supervision and what are your higher ups?
Yeah, so our targeted case manager supervisor is also a therapist. And so she plays a role of being a therapist and also our supervisor. So we meet with her monthly, and that's one-on-one monthly, and then we have a team meeting monthly. But we also have something that's very vital to our survival, is a chat room where we chat constantly, because we're in two Paducah offices, we're in Mayfield, we're in Murray, and so we all collaborate. When we find a resource, we're so eager to share it with each other. If we hear of a luncheon that learn, sometimes we're successful and we learn something, sometimes we don't, but we'll go and then we'll share that knowledge with someone else if they're not able to arrange clients to be there. But one good thing, Ross, that we get to do, helps our mental health, is since we see so many people and really are in the trenches with them, sometimes in their homes, we set our own schedule. We're the only provider really that sets our schedule on a daily basis. So they come to the front desk and, I need to see Jennifer. I need to see Jennifer. I'm sorry. I'll tell her to contact you, and then I can contact them and set up a time that works best for me.
All right. Well, it was great to hear from you today, and I think we had an amazing conversation, and thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
If you ever feel the need for the services provided by Emerald Therapy Center, you can call it 270-534-5128. This is not an emergency line. If you ever find yourself or someone else in a mental health crisis or emergency, contact the crisis line at 988 or 911 Emergency Services Line. If you're interested in setting up an appointment, you can scan the QR code to reach their website. I'm Ross with the Marshall Media Arts class, and thank you for watching the Marshall Close-Up.